hope you all enjoyed that performance earlier, and all of you out there, you do know you've got the keys. Now we're going to get a chance to speak with Malia Lazu of the Epic Center community. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Please have a seat. I am excited to get a chance to talk with you because my first time meeting you was at the Money Talks event over at the Reggie Lewis Center. So before we get into that, I always like to find out from my guests, for the audience, are you originally from the Boston area?
I'm not. I'm originally from Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, I can just imagine that warm weather right now.
I know. We need to go there by December.
So what brought you into the New England area?
So I came to Boston in 1995 to go to Emerson College.
Okay.
Although I guess I shouldn't say the year. People are going to start doing math. But
you look amazing.
Oh, right. I started college when I was 10. So I moved. It was the first time I saw snow. And so far I've lived in Boston, New York, and D.C. And recently, about 4 or 5 years ago, moved back to Boston because I just love the city.
And we love you. So what kind of got you into the field of working with the community, but more importantly, really educating the community and providing resources?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that I'm supposed to be doing this work. So when I was 10 years old, I came home and I told my mother that I was working for this campaign. And I went and I worked for this campaign. I mean, it wasn't someone my mother endorsed. Like, I don't know how I found this candidate.
Right.
But at 10, I was into it. And I would love to hold signs and do door knocking and all of that. So I was running, I was volunteering on my first campaigns when I was quite young.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when I came to Emerson, they always say it's amazing how fate and the universe works for you. So
right.
I was at Emerson College and I was going to throw a concert at the Boston Commons to register people to vote and just to bring people together to have a good time. And the city of Boston wouldn't give me a permit because it was going to be attracting black people and people of color and elements that they don't like to have partying in the Commons.
Absolutely.
Which I did not know.
Not too much.
No, exactly. But I didn't know. I'm from Hawaii, so I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to have black? Like, in Hawaii, everything's like, white people are the minority, just everything's opposite there than it is here. So I might be moving back shortly. No, I'm kidding. But
well, make sure you have your passport.
Oh, right, exactly. But so I was really shocked by that, and I thought, like, how can a city deny people to come together? I mean, it just made no sense to me. So that's when I started Mass Vote, and the whole idea was that I was going to get a whole bunch of people to vote to re-elect a whole new city government. It took 20 years, but we finally got there.
How long it really does take. Oh my goodness. So being from Hawaii and getting your foot wet in the door and, coming to life and realizing that you have a desire to make sure people are politically educated as well as encouraging them within their entrepreneurial spirits, how did you then transition from dealing with the politics to now dealing with the people?
That's a great question. So I worked for Harry Belafonte for 7 years.
Wow.
And that was a wonderful transition. I was his political director and developed the Gathering for Justice for him. And that really, I was always with the people. It's why I didn't last in D.C. for too long. I just always want to be organizing people. I think that's the only place you see impact. And so I was always, doing field work or registering voters or stuff like that.
Right.
And then when I started working for Mr. B, I was able to just work directly in the streets. We were working with, I guess, what we call at-risk youth, and we were training them in Kingian nonviolence, but then we were also helping them think through how they can start their own economies, right? How they can, if you look at a gang, it's actually a corporate infrastructure, and if you give them a legal thing to sell, they may actually become a successful business. And so we wanted to focus on that, and that's really where I got, where my heart began to expand in this way that I had never had before, and I realized this is the work that's for me to do.
Right.
And so I moved back to Boston and I hid out at MIT for 2 years to figure out what that all meant. And now, as you saw, the Money Talks conference is one example, but we also have an accelerator program where we take people, creatives who want to start businesses, and we help them get to market. we've launched or helped launch almost 20 businesses so far.
Right.
So it's like it's been this long walk, like out of politics and now into real economic development.
Which is definitely a very important place to be for everyone, and understanding how economics works for individuals, but how it works for our city and for our state. We're going to cut to a brief PSA, and when we come back, we will get a chance to see a couple photos as well from some of these events. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
We just finished dinner and it was time for homework. He hates homework.
It makes no sense.
I don't know how he finds anything in his
I
backpack.
can't find my backpack.
I couldn't even read his handwriting.
Holding the pencil makes my hand hurt.
I know he's bright.
Why is it so hard for me?
He's
I'm
just gotta
trying as
try a
hard
little
as
harder.
I can.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. Go to understood.org, a free online resource with support and tools to help your child thrive.
Thank you for staying tuned to Boss Lady News. You guys know that you can always catch me, if not Fridays at 6 p.m., then you can feel free to go over to BossLadyNews.com and check out any previous interviews or field events that we've got a chance to cover. Right now, we are on set with Malia Lazu of Epic Center Community, and there's a variety of different events that you've been a part of and partaken in, and we're going to get a chance to look at a few of the photos from some of those events.
Yay.
So this first picture that is coming up will be...
So this is actually the latest event that we're in the middle of right now, and so I really wanted to make sure that folks knew about this, because a lot of my work now is about finding each other's humanity and bringing people together as we're developing economics, because you can't do anything in a vacuum, right?
Right.
Culture matters. And so this is our Fashion Accessibility Project, and we're bringing together people with disabilities along with Boston Fashion Week and other fashion industry folks. So we just had a charrette with people with disabilities and 4 fashion designers.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then in February, we're going to be doing a fully accessible fashion show with nothing but models with disabilities.
I love it.
Which I would love for Boss Lady to cover.
We will make sure we are there.
Thank you,
for
thank
sure.
you. Yes, yes. And so we're very excited. That's our newest program.
Okay, and then we have...
So this is one of our latest press features. We were featured in Banner Biz around our accelerator. And what's interesting and what I'm very proud of about this story is that when you look at accelerators or incubators, we actually have the opposite numbers that the national average is. So we have 77% people of color, 56% women, and 96% under the age of 40.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so 85 businesses have been through our accelerator so far, and 20 are in market. So we're very proud of that.
So talking more just a little bit about the accelerator program, what would make someone want to contact you and find out more about that?
So if someone is interested in starting a business, especially within the creative industries, and wants a safe space where they can explore, where they can feel vulnerable, where they can say, I actually don't know what to do with this P&L, or
Right.
it looks like I'm only making $5. Like, is that right? Which sometimes it is for your first year, right? And so we really provide that safe space. I think what makes us unique is that we have a program that's taught by a lot of successful entrepreneurs, so folks like Alex Stern, who was one of the founders of Constant Contact and just sold his company for $1.8 billion.
Wow.
Literally 3 days after he sold his company, he was in Roxbury teaching a class.
And that's the pay it forward, that's the give it back that I feel like a lot of people who are just starting off, they don't realize that that can happen, and that once they've hit some of those goals, that's what should happen.
Exactly. And, to have that bridge, our biggest problem is the networking gap, right? We don't have the relationships of the change makers because they were all in boarding school together, or they all met at Brown or Harvard Business School, or,
Right.
and we necessarily, and I'm not only talking about people of color, I think this is a class thing as well, but people of color are definitely on the bottom end of numbers when you look at that. And so I think that being able to say, well, I can now email
Right.
this person from Morgan Stanley, or this person from Fidelity, and they'll have coffee with me, and and I don't have to have everything right. I think those are the experiences. And the other piece of that is our self-confidence needs to be built, right? We have so much trauma around money and around who we are as leaders. So, a lot of times before we even start to talk finance, we talk about scarcity mentality, right? And we help folks understand that they're going to be feeling nervous about this.
Absolutely.
But that we can get through it because they actually can find a way to get $650,000 to start a business. And, our businesses every year collectively raise about $1 million. So once we have the confidence, we go out and slay like we always do.
Right. And when I went to the Money Talks event, it was incredible to kind of be in a room of other entrepreneurs who were looking for understanding in their businesses, but not just sitting in a room of people who are looking to be taught, but amongst a panel of individuals who have the resources to give. There was an investment individual there. There was a nonprofit that dealt with investing in small businesses. There was a bank that was there saying, we work very closely with small businesses and we're here for you. And what I feel most comfortable with this accelerator program, which you all please make sure that you contact Malia in reference to this accelerator program.
Yes, because our application is actually went live yesterday.
Okay.
And classes start in January.
But what I enjoyed or felt so comfortable about you saying is people can feel vulnerable. Because as an entrepreneur, we know what it is we want to do. And, sometimes people or family members may try to pull you into different directions of, oh, maybe you should do this instead, or maybe you should do that. But that vulnerability of saying, no, this is what I want to do, and I know it's not doing very well right now, but I want to stick to it.
Right, and I have a plan. I think that's where most of us fall down, right? Because we think we have to do it by ourselves. We think we have to we have to stick to whatever it is we're doing. And what you see in entrepreneurship is that's not the case. And if you can feel confident and if you can feel vulnerable, you might be willing to say, you know what, I thought this idea was good, but it's just not working. So I'm going to pivot.
Right.
I'm not going to give it all up. We had this one woman who in the middle of this, she said, you know what? This isn't what I want to do at all. I just want to be around beautiful fabrics. I don't want to run a store.
Right.
So I'm going to become more of an importer-exporter. And
Right.
she completely changed her business because really she just wanted to find a way to travel the world and see beautiful fabrics, right?
Right.
But because you have people there who do that all the time, it's part of the nature of the game. So people aren't like, oh, you're changing your plan. You're questioning that. People are like, of course, fail quick, move on to the next. And
That's
so
right.
I think it does give people a chance. And as you said, we do it in a setting where you're not the only one, so you're not sitting there like, oh my God, everyone else knows what's going on. Everyone is learning at the same time, and everyone is carrying some type of PTSD. We had a young woman who was an immigrant who stood up in one of our classes and said, my husband, we come from a country where my husband just doesn't know what a female CEO is.
Right.
And he doesn't understand why he needs to watch our daughter every Saturday,
Right.
every other Saturday. And by the end of the class, he was there. He was at the pitch contest with their little girl, taking pictures. So proud because his wife talked to other wives in the class and was like, "This is how you handle your husband."
Yeah.
She didn't take my suggestion, which was, "Well, move on." That's why I don't have a husband. But she was able to talk to other women to say, "Yeah, no, once you start building things, it gets a little tense or whatever."
Right.
So it's a safe space.
We've only got a couple more minutes. So within the next couple minutes, I wanted to take a look at this next event as well that you were a part of.
Fabulous. So this is an annual event that we do, and this was actually a set of aprons. If you talk about making aprons look like art, Joelle from I Am Creole and Linda, the designer of the aprons, slayed it. But we do Juneteenth at the Museum of Fine Arts, and so about 4,000 people come. And every year we highlight 6 to 9 African-American artists in the museum.
Amazing.
So this year was all about fashion. So we had I Am Creole, we had Linda, we had Marcus, we had Kush Groove Clothing. Of course, I'm not going to remember everyone's name.
I love Kush Groove Clothing.
Yes, yes. They were actually one of our graduates. They're one of our alumni.
Amazing.
Yes, yes.
If you guys do not know about Kush Groove, they are very successful. Now they own a brick and mortar right across from Mission Church. And if you guys want to find out about a alternative brand, they are definitely one to look into.
Absolutely.
Well, it was amazing having you on set, and we've got to get out to your event and your workshop as well. We've got to have you come back on to the show.
Please,
Yes?
I would love to.
Well, thank you again for coming.
Thank you.
We're going to cut to a brief PSA. And